I had an interest in the story of Charles Hall and the Tall Whites for a number of years. After reading his book Millennial Hospitality, I was trying to locate the positioning of the weather stations on the bombing and gunnery ranges that he talks about in his book, so that I could better understand the orientation of the various locations. While conducting my research, I ran across this photo at OpenSETI.org. I then went into Google Earth to locate some of the positions to get a closer look. What caught my interest in this photo are the sites marked at the top center of the picture that was labeled Scoutcraft Hangar and Resting and Play Area. I wanted to get a good look at those areas in Google Earth. When I looked at those areas, what I found was shocking. Before I go on, I want to make everyone aware of Charles Hall's description of the Tall White Scoutcraft. Here's an image of it. This is what I found when I looked at the area in Google Earth. It appears to be three structures that seem to fit the description of the Scoutcraft as described by Charles Hall. Furthermore, right above them is what appears to be a recreation area of some sort that is located on the top of a hill with no apparent access roads or paths whatsoever. It should be noted that this is in the same area that Charles Hall reported seeing these craft and the recreation area. According to Google Earth, this is approximately 15 miles north of Creech Air Force Base, Nevada. In an effort to get a statement from the Air Force on this object, I filed a request under the Freedom of Information Act. From this point forward, I'll refer to this as a FOIA request. Here is the text of my request. I stated, "Can you please identify some of the structures in the desert north of Creech Air Force Base? The structure is inside the Nellis Test and Training Range. It is approximately 15.38 miles north of the main entrance of Creech Air Force Base. It is a tan-colored rectangle with three oval objects. Can you please identify what each of these objects are? If possible, I would like to get a close photograph of these objects and the area." I then went on to give the coordinates and also a link to the location in Google Maps. The Air Force refused to answer my request, stating that I had not provided sufficient details to enable them to respond. This is the actual FOIA response that I received from the Air Force. I contacted by phone the FOIA manager that sent me this response, and I talked to her about this request. She was very nice, and we had a pleasant conversation. She said that without a request for specific documents, she could not help me. The Air Force is not required under the Freedom of Information Act to answer requests to identify an unknown object. The FOIA request must be a specific request for specific documentation. The Air Force is not required under the FOIA Act to answer requests to identify an unknown object. The FOIA must be a request for specific documentation. Furthermore, she said that just because the object is located on the range north of Creech Air Force Base, they may not be owned or operated by the Air Force. She added that the Air Force may also have no idea who these objects belong to. She said that unless I could find some type of documentation to go off of to base a request on, she could not help me. Since I had no idea of how to obtain information on documents on these objects, I requested that she close my FOIA request. So, unless someone has any idea what these objects could possibly be, or who owns them, a FOIA request on them is no good. Further research that I've done has revealed some other interesting facts. There were multiple nuclear tests in the mid to late 1960s that were done in the general area of the reported Tall White underground base facility. Note that in this image, the nuclear tests are in the order of their location from north to south in the test area. It should be noted that one of the original points of research in nuclear testing was its application in civil engineering and underground excavation. Could these tests be an indication of underground construction? Also, there were 3 earthquakes in the general area. In 1963, at 4.1 magnitude at 15.53 miles deep. In 1968, at 3.6 magnitude at 20.51 miles deep. And in 1987, at 3.6 magnitude at 24.30 miles deep. Also, on the far side of the valley, in the same area of the previously mentioned scout craft, there were 10 earthquakes ranging from 3.0 to 4.1 magnitude, dating from 1952 to 1999, almost all of which were at 3.73 miles in depth. Again, could these be an indication of underground construction?